the Oilers have a serious problem as they can't hold on to yet another lead against the Tampa Bay Lightning despite the best efforts of Calvin Pickard between the sticks last night there. We will get into all that and more from last night's contest against the Tampa Bay Lightning there. Would have been a very gutsy effort and win for the Oilers, but just couldn't hang on to the 1-0 lead there. We'll have that covered for you here on the channel. Again, the Oilers and giving up leads, name a better duo this season, but we'll have that covered for you on the channel today. If you're enjoying your Friday, if you're enjoying the videos here on Oilers Digest, make sure you go down below there and hit that subscribe button, as 71% of you watching these videos haven't done so already. So make sure while you're down in the comment section giving me your thoughts on the team in last night's game, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Now, Edmonton and Tampa Bay, two teams that have been known to be, high-flying and scoring teams. Edmonton, not so much this season, but it's what we all expected there as the Oilers dropped that one 2-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning there. The Oilers haven't won in Tampa Bay since December of 2009, and that streak will go 1 year more there as the Oilers record moves to 9-9-5. Taking a look at the scoring summary there. Trent Frederick getting the monkey off his back 92 seconds into the first period. His second goal of this season there from Leon Draisaitl. What a shot that was. Completely blew by Andrei Vasilevskiy, but that would be the only goal that Vasilevskiy would give up all night long there. In the second period, there was no scoring. But in the first period, the Oilers, that was the best I've seen them look pretty much all year long, coming out of the gates, high-flying, getting the goal early on in the period. Darnell Nurse getting involved in a fight there, sticking up for Jake Walman, who got a little bit of a dirty hit there from Curtis Douglas of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But again, those Oilers, they had something to prove last night in the first period there, and then somewhere along the way, during the last 40 minutes of gameplay, the back-to-back fatigue wore on, and they just could not hold the Tampa Bay Lightning as in the third period. Nick Paul, with 2.5 minutes left, gets on the board for the Tampa Bay Lightning. His first game back from LTIR, and he's making, again, a huge impact for the Tampa Bay Lightning, making that one 1-1. Now, I saw a lot of people on social media go, why didn't the Oilers challenge it? Gage Gonsalves looked offside, but again, it's the Makar possession rule. I do believe it was Nick Paul didn't have possession of the puck as Gonsalves was technically offside, but he was onside, touched up, and Nick Paul didn't touch the puck there. So it was a pretty good non-challenge there for the Edmonton Oilers. I will never let that Cale Makar goal, go away from my memories there. I thought it was offside, but the whole possession rule with the offsides in the NHL still racks my brain. It's the same thing as goalie interference. Nobody knows what goalie interference is, but that stood. And again, good non-challenge there for the Edmonton Oilers. But in overtime, Jack Roslovic was so very close to ending this one for the Edmonton Oilers, but Andrei Vasilevskiy sticking that leg up and again, getting a well-timed save there for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and unfortunately, the Oilers not taking this one as Jake Ensel gets his 12th of the year there, a minute and 43 seconds into overtime. But the effort for the Oilers, there was a team there. There was a team that, decided, hey, you know what? We give a damn once again, and, as the back-to-back fatigue wore on, I can't really be too mad at that loss. I know there are a lot of people saying, in the third period, why did they just, decide to, try and sit on a lead? But half of that, again, was just fatigue there, and the guys, not coming into Tampa Bay until I do believe it was, 2:30 the previous night, heading into Tampa Bay from Washington there. So at some point, these guys, they're pretty good, but they're not superhuman. At one point or another, fatigue will take over. As I mentioned, the Oilers all over, the penalty box in the first period there. Darnell Nurse getting, 2 minutes for instigating and another 10 for instigating on top of the 5 minutes for fighting there. And again, that just kind of makes me wonder, the instigator rule, it's pretty subjective with these NHL refs. They just decide to give it willy-nilly there. But, of course, Curtis Douglas realized what he had done to Jake Walman and fought Darnell Nurse. And somehow, some way, Darnell Nurse ends up with the extra 2 for instigating. And nobody really had a bad night for the Edmonton Oilers last night. Again, in the third period, it was just a whole team effort there of just trying to sit on a lead. Something that the Oilers, they haven't been quite good at doing. But, again, half of that was fatigue. And Calvin Pickard, the main story from last night there, 33 saves, only 2 goals against there, but I don't think either were his fault whatsoever. He kept the team in it, had a fantastic save on Brandon Hagel last night. A diving effort there in the second period in the 943 save percentage. So normally when the Oilers get 900 save percentage, they usually win the game there. But again, the defensive goaltending, they were cohesive last night. It was just up to the offense to try and do something. But, the expected goals just weren't quite there for the Oilers. Normally it's the other way around. The expected goals are really high, but the Oilers couldn't buy one. Just couldn't get anything going in the last 40 minutes of play. But again, like the effort last night from the Oilers, in a bunch of these losses, I've been, this team, they're going nowhere. It's a downward spiral. But, there is something there with these Oilers. And, 9 times out of 10, they win a game like this, off the back of Calvin Pickard there. It's, the 10th time this happens. But for the Oilers, Calvin Pickard, 2 goals against, and a plus 1.63 expected goals against there, 943 save percentage, 5-on-5 I should add, and then 9 high danger shots against and 9 high danger saves. But a lot of quotes from the Oilers last night there, the first one coming from Trent Frederick. I was fortunate to get that goal early. I think that always helps the confidence, as the fan base has been on Trent Frederick so much. It even goes back to before the first Columbus game on that Monday night. They're saying, what did Trent Frederick do? You haven't even seen him fight yet, and then he got involved with the best fighter in the NHL, Matthew Olivier. But he's slowly starting to gain some stock back with the Oiler faithful there. But I think physically and skating wise, my last couple games might have been better. Honestly, I was just fortunate tonight to get the goal. I think everyone wanted to get the win for Picks. Played great tonight. He deserved probably better than what the outcome was, but he played great and hopefully can carry that along there. Calvin Pickard saying, I really liked how we played. It's not the easiest back-to-back coming from Washington, but I feel like we do things the hard way. We like to do it the hard way right from the get-go. We had a good game, but obviously in the third they kind of took it to us. They're a great team as well. They had some good looks, but a very unfortunate result, and that it was. The Oilers, in the first period, again, all over the Tampa Bay Lightning, 7-5 in the shots there, but the Oilers dominating the shot attempt chart there. Second period was a little more even-wise, and then the Lightning, again, 14 shots in the third period on the Oilers, and then 12 scoring chances for. Meanwhile, the Oilers, couldn't really muster a whole lot there with the scoring chances in the third period, but again, that was just more so trying to sit back on the lead there and not let Tampa Bay, come, wave after wave at the Oilers there, is a bend but don't break defense. But eventually, in the third period, with 2.5 minutes left, it broke there. But the Oilers, again, there's something to build off of this there. I'm not, completely negative about this. Sure, could have been a little more gutsy in the third period, but, at this point, a point-to-point in the standings so far. It's so tight in the NHL. There are no bad teams. Even teams like, Chicago and San Jose picking up the pace here on the other teams in the NHL. So it's a very long season ahead of us there in yours, and you realize how much of a grind it is. But, you can see sort of, after the second period, the expected goals there for the Oilers just kind of flatlined for a bit. Meanwhile, Tampa's, just kept climbing until they broke through eventually in the third period in overtime there. So you can sort of see where, Knoblauch's, whole mantra of just trying to protect your goaltender kind of backfired on him there. And, it's led to, a lot of hashtags here, hashtag fire Knoblauch, for, a new voice behind the bench for the Edmonton Oilers. Meanwhile, I've seen, the other side saying, okay, he's led the team to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals there. But for Kris Knoblauch saying, there are a lot of things to be happy about. We've been talking about how to play better defensively, better awareness, and just digging in on those areas. I saw a lot of good defensive plays tonight, but you can see a fragile group in the third period. So he's realizing, okay, yeah, sitting back, not what you want to do here, but we were a shell of ourselves, not wanting to make a mistake and holding on. When you hold on, you just have to defend over and over again. Unfortunately, they scored that tying goal, and it was too bad because it was a good effort from a lot of guys there. So Knoblauch, his philosophy, starting to, perhaps, backfiring in his mind there. It's like, okay, yeah, you got to, protect your goaltender, but when your goalie is on a heater, like Calvin Pickard was last night, sure, that's the only time he's, done that so far this season, you have to realize, okay, let's provide some pushback here. Our goalie is keeping us in it. Let's try to get him some run support here, but of course, that was not the case there. And as for, the faithful asking for Knoblauch to be fired here from David Pagnotta of the fourth period. I know a lot of people in Alberta are going nuts as well for something, but you just signed Knoblauch to a 3-year extension. You're probably not signing these guys and then making a coaching change 2 months later. I get that everyone's going nuts about this, losing their minds, but maybe it's the roster construction that's not up to snuff for some of these teams. Maybe the realism is Edmonton's not deep enough right now. So you have to take all that into consideration. So I don't expect a coaching change in any time soon there. So, Dave Pagnotta is saying, okay, just because the team hasn't been performing well recently, it's got to be, a 50-50 effort here between the coach and the personnel on the ice there. And, it could be a whole lot worse here, folks, but it can only go up from here. And the Oilers, their next opponent, the Florida Panthers. I'm so sick of seeing that logo there. Oilers-Panthers in Sunrise on Saturday. They have a day off today. It is finally the end of the road trip here tomorrow night until, the Oilers have Sunday off, and then they are back at it again next week against the Dallas Stars. I mean, they only have 2 games at all next week, once against Dallas, and then the other one on the 29th, the Saturday, against the Seattle Kraken. So some time for these Oilers to catch up from being on the road here, but still one final test, the final boss at the end of this road here, the Florida Panthers on Saturday night. But that is it for today's video, folks. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about last night's game as a whole here, and, the third period, sure. If you take that away, if you look at the first period effort from the Oilers, how does that make you feel about this team moving forward here? Lots to sort of discuss down below. But folks, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Let's go, Oilers. I'm Matt.